All right, hello wine drinking people. Welcome for a special edition of Wine Watch Television. And we've got our man from Krug here, Carl Helene, the U.S. director, here to tell us a little bit about Krug champagne. And I always tell people, you know, when they come in and ask for a recommendation on champagne, you know, if you're celebrating something special and money is no object, Krug is the champagne for me. I'll never forget my Krug experience when I won $3 million in a court battle. And the first thing I did was go out and drink vintage Krug all night. The next morning, I woke up with a little bit of a hangover, and well, I've never gotten a dime of that $3 million. So, but I was partying like a rock star, and like I said, when money is no object, Krug is my favorite champagne. I could have just ordered the Grand Cuvee because, to me, this is as good as any of the wines in the Krug lineup. And we just have 3 of them, and I think they have a, you know, in terms of quality, I don't know if they go up, but they're different wines. And the more expensive ones, the 2 we don't have here, are just very, very rare. That's part of the reason why the price has gotten so high. Well, Carl, you can tell us a little bit about these 3 and about the 2 we don't have and why the price is what it is with Krug.
Well, you already said so much about Krug that basically we can go back and forth in those three wines, and there's no differences in terms of quality. They're all for the same quality, which is the Krug quality, which was the vision of our founder 170 years ago, that who wanted to create what is considered as the best in Champagne. And it's true that this vision is unique because we don't go in a very vertical system by going from non-vintage to prestige cuvée as many other champagne houses. Everything we produce is considered as, you hear sometimes ultra premium champagne or prestige.
Well, Krug is unique. You know, the Krug family used to go out and say, "Look, Krug is not champagne; it's Krug."
It's Krug,
which was a little bit elitist, I think. And now they'll tell you, "No, Krug is champagne."
Exactly.
But Krug is something different. What makes Krug unique from every other champagne?
To me, what makes Krug unique is the first point we talked about is the fact that any Krug is considered as the top of champagnes. Then it's just different expressions. Right now we have the vintage 2000.
Which we're going to start with the vintage. Yeah. Most other champagne houses might start with their
non-vintage.
Non-vintage,
exactly.
Well, multi-vintage is what they used to always say about Krug. But why would you start with 90 in this case?
I will start with the 2000.
I'm sorry, the 2000.
I will start with the 2000 in that case because I think we're already working with the 3 grapes variety here, but it's the expression of 1 year. And this is what we call the freestyle at Krug. Like when we produce a vintage, which we don't do often, we do it about 4 times every decade, because we don't need everything's in the Grand Cuvee. We really do.
I said 90 because 90 is the oldest vintage in this Grand Cuvee.
In the Grand Cuvee,
maybe that's why we're showing the Grand Cuvee next, because it's actually, some of the wines are older than the 2000.
Well, you just said it. The Grand Cuvee is a blend of 11 different vintages. It takes 23 years for us to enjoy that glass today. When the vintage, that we don't do it often, is the expression of 1 year. But it's freestyle because 2000 was a very specific year, and we chose really to express that in a bottle. So this is the vision of 2000 by Krug.
And this isn't made every year, the vintage wine from Krug. How many vintages in a decade do you produce?
About 4 every decade. I mean, before that we had 98, 96, and 95.
Sorry, I'm starting ahead of you with the tasting.
You should.
I like to let champagne open up. It's something a lot of people, you know, just serve it freezing cold. They put it in one of these thin flutes, and they drink it within 10 or 15 minutes of the bottle opening. To me,
it's a wine.
Great wines, great champagnes need a little time to stretch their legs.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, if we could give some advice here, drink it above 48, 49, 50 degrees. Yeah, well, definitely.
I love the toasty and really rich character that Krug has, the creaminess on the palate, and that is something that evolves over time in the bottle. Now, you say Krug has got a new little thing you can put on your phone and put right in. You can tell the exact date of disgorgement and how long.
It gives you all the indications you need to know about every single bottle, and that makes you, especially on the Rosé and the Grand Cuvée, which don't have a year on it, now you can collect them and see how they age. And we presented last year a Grand Cuvée that has been extra aged. I mean, that Grand Cuvée normally aged always 6 to 7 years. But we presented a Grand Cuvée that was been on a cork for 6 to 7 years, and people could not believe how the Grand Cuvée was aging.
I mean, I think, you know, I've had 10-year-old bottlings of this. It's hard to tell because you don't have the exact date it was disgorged. Now we do. It's going to be fun to go look at your Grand Cuvée after it's been in your cellar and say, wow, this one has been in there 5 years under cork, 10 years under cork. The production, how has that changed over the years with Krug? What is the production level of the Champagne House?
Well, it hasn't changed in terms of volumes.
So they haven't changed the volume at all?
And we will not increase volumes. That's not our goal here. We're really trying to keep our standard, even raise better if we can do. I mean, Eric Lebel, the cellar master, working very closely with Henry Krug at the time, Olivier's dad. He's been here for 15 years now, and he's really pushing everything at the peak for the quality to be good as it has never been. And I think we will only see that, unfortunately, in the next 20 years. But we still find some bottles of Grand Cuvee sometimes.
The rosé is what I call, partying like a rock star. When you have the Krug Rosé out, and then the Clos du Ambonnay and the Clos du Mesnil, those wines are the real rock star wines.
Play with the rosé because it is definitely not any rosé champagne. Krug Rosé is very specific, and that's the reason why the family didn't want to do a rosé until the 80s, when the sons, the fifth generation, did it without letting their dad know. And then one day their dad tasted it and said, "Oh, we have an issue. Someone is copying our style because it has the Krug style and it's a rosé, and we don't make a rosé." And they say, "Well, yes, we did 7 years ago without telling you." And
I love the rosé. It's very rich, very typical of what you get from the other wines from Krug. And spicy. I'm gonna be really interested to see how that is tomorrow. Maybe a little red burgundy-ish on the nose, or.
What you can? I love Thai food, for example, sushi. Krug Rosé with the half bottle sushi. I do that at home, and during the week it's perfect.
People don't drink enough champagne. I always say you need to have a bottle in the fridge at all times. Every day above ground is reason to celebrate.
It is.
So the other two cuvées that we don't have here. The Clos du
Mesnil and Clos d'Ambonnay. Well, everything starts at Krug by this unique philosophy of the founder to say that you don't blend what you don't know. So what we do at Krug is that every plot that we select, every single garden, we make a wine with it. And the Krug did this with some of the vineyards they bought in the 70s in Mesnil-sur-Roger, where the best Chardonnays are, in Côte des Blancs. And by doing this for many years, since the 71 when they bought some hectares there, until 79, they have found that one specific plot surrounded by walls at the center of the village of Mesnil-sur-Roger, blind tasting, had this unique taste. And it was coming back every single year on the blind tasting. So as an experimentation, they started in 1979 to put the grapes, so only Chardonnay, only from 79, only from that specific small plot, 4.5 acres. So when we do it, we do 10, 11, 12,000 bottles. Put it in the bottle. And then 30 years later, it's Clos du Mesnil. But at the time, nobody knew it. It's the purest expression of Chardonnay. The minerality, it's really amazing.
I love Blanc de Blanc champagnes. I don't get to enjoy that one enough, though, I have to say. You guys have got to come back again with the Clos du Mesnil. And the Clos d'Ambonnay I've never tasted. That's one wine.
Clos d'Ambonnay is the brother or the sister, I don't know how I should say, of Mesnil, because the Chardonnay style is present at Krug, but Pinot Noir are mainly what Krug was always been looking for. And this village of Ambonnay, some of the grapes from Ambonnay have been in our blend since day one, 1843.
And this is a Pinot Noir.
So that's exactly. Ambonnay. So when Clos du Mesnil started, the Krug family at the time always looked for the brother or the sister, and they found this plot that was actually a grapes that we were buying from a supplier. When someone raised his hand and said, "I think you're looking for a plot of Ambonnay," and we had that plot that we've been selling to you actually for 5 or 6 years. That is surrounded by wall. That is 1/3 of Clos du Mesnil. That's even rarer.
So much smaller production. Yes. That's the reason the price is so high.
Exactly. All the prices at Krug are made on scarcity, rarity. All those champagnes received exactly the same treatments, the way they are vinified, the way they're pressed, the way they're handled, and definitely then working on the blending, because this is what Krug is very special. It's this art of blending, and then the time. You have to read it. Don't forget, that by law should stay only in the cellar for 15 months. It stays 7 years at Krug. A vintage by law should stay 3 years. Right now we're on the 2000 and we're in 2014. 14 years.
It's very expensive to make high-end champagne. I've always said, even the regular non-vintage cuvées from the other houses that don't spend as much time, they still spend, a lot of them, 3 years before they get to the market. So it's a very expensive process. You have to touch that bottle a few times to get the put the dosage in, to get the sediment out of it. Yeah. So it's a very labor-intensive process. It's amazing we can still buy any champagnes for $20 to $30 a bottle.
Well, I will make it that simple. The Champagne region is the most controlled wine region in the world.
And they're not making any more land in Champagne.
No, that's my point.
I think they petitioned once to make it larger.
To be called Champagne.
But as far as Krug goes, they're not making any more Krug. This is all you have. And I strongly recommend that you try these wines before you leave this earth, because if money is no object, you have no excuse why you have not drank Krug and all 5 of the cuvées that they make. Well, thank you very much, Carl, for coming and hanging out with us and drinking some Krug today.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Not too cold, and you said it, in a good glass.
And yes, no tiny flutes.
No tiny flutes. Cheers.
Always drink the good stuff first.